I joined my school's speech and debate team my freshman year. Like some of you here and many before me, I started writing speeches and going to tournaments in order to find my voice. What I actually found was dozens of people talking to walls and debate opponents asking me what my farm animal aura is. She said I was a bumblebee. Little did I know that not only do I have the tough task of even attempting to find my voice, but I also have to make it loud enough in order to combat my debate opponents and to get them to actually listen to and care about what I have to say. Loud people dominate our society, and this is an immense problem because the loud minority are often the ones that end up winning. So today, let's talk in a nice, even tone about our society's obsession with loud people. Then we will converse calmly about what this cacophony does to us as individuals and as a group. And lastly, let's get a little loud with some solutions. Speaking of loud people drowning out pretty much everybody else, Trump himself in his speech, The Art of the Deal, declares that if you are a little loud or a little outrageous, or if you do things that are bold or controversial, the press is going to write about you. Notice how this doesn't say anything about whether what's being written is positive, but just the fact that it is being written. If you are loud enough in any way, somebody will notice. This pretty much perfectly sums up a majority of American culture. A relevant example to Oklahoma is seen with our infamous superintendent, Ryan Walters. He has brought so much attention to himself just by being loud and making so much noise and making false and outrageous claims. People like Walters and Trump find a way to just take up space. While yes, their volume level is loud, the issue goes beyond just that. They speak in a manner that is almost impossible to ignore and find a way to physically fill up the room. It's like they form this bubble that just cannot be popped. Once they start talking, heads turn and the attention immediately goes to them. Prophet, a technology journalist and community manager, introduces the concept of the bias of the loud. It plainly is the fact that the loudest voices in our community are often the ones dominating discussions. The danger is that this drives away participants with just as much, if not even more, to contribute, simply because they don't want to end up in a shouting match. I very often find myself leaving conversations when I still have more to say, simply because I don't think it's worth getting yelled at for absolutely no good reason. I also primarily experience this loudness and aggression within men. These people find a way to just suck up all of the oxygen in the room, leaving everyone else suffocated, gasping for a chance to get a word in or to catch some air. Another example of a loud and controversial person who still has power in today's society is Russell Brand. He is well known for being anti-woke, trusting no one or no thing, and is now known for being an assaulter that should not be trusted. Yet, he still has fame and many, many followers. Anytime he makes a tweet, it continues to get millions of views, and this is simply because of his loud and controversial approach. The Guardian explains that he's found out his audience, the post-Trump everyone's against us content. Russell Brand and many others find a way to just always get attention. Loud people never fail to draw this attention, even by looking at cancel culture with influencers. James Charles got canceled back in 2019, and his apology video is still one of his most popular to date. And look at him now. He is thriving with tons of money, tons of makeup, and millions of views and fans. Loud people just never go away. And this is an immense problem because these loud people tend to polarize our society. These loud voices take extreme positions and make false promises that they cannot back down from, which is why it is so difficult to come to compromises, which entirely polarizes our society. We are already divided with the two-party system, and it is consistently the loudest voices in each party that are the ones that get positions of power. This problem heightens when, as GCF Global explains, we place ourselves in echo chambers. This is an environment in which a person only encounters information that reinforces and reflects their own viewpoints. Echo chambers cause misinformation and distort a person's perspective to the point where they have difficulty even considering opposing viewpoints and having complicated discussions. They're fueled in part by confirmation bias, which is the tendency to favor information that reinforces their existing beliefs. The greatest issue arises when we don't do anything to leave these chambers. The big reason for why it is so difficult to leave is because change is independent. Each individual must actively choose to seek out information that completely differs from their own and listen to people with entirely opposing viewpoints, which is such a difficult task to ask out of anybody. When an assistant professor in philosophy elaborates that we might be selectively avoiding contact with contrary views because it makes us uncomfortable. We like to seek and engage in selective exposure, engaging in things and seeking out informations that reflect our own worldview. But this omission can be entirely inadvertent. Once an echo chamber starts to grip a person's, its mechanisms will continue to reinforce themselves. These chambers are constantly ruled by the loudest people in them, which is why it is so important not to get sucked into these. When I say the name Vivek Ramaswamy, what comes to mind? For me, I think of him as a grown-up version of those debate boys that are just somehow convinced that they are never wrong, ever. This is actually what led me to even want to write this speech in the first place. During my time doing public forum debate last year, my partner was a pretty loud guy, and I often felt like he gained more respect during the round than I ever did. During the grand cross-examination, where we were all standing and talking, my opponents often would only address my partner. He often dominated the conversation, giving me little opportunity to respond, and my opponents would only address and give respect to him. This is when I felt such a strong level of disrespect, and this is a prime example of the bias of the loud, because even when I would get louder, the attention and respect would still go to him. Why should I have to completely change who I am and how I talk in order to gain the basic respect of acknowledgement? It felt diminishing seeing my opponents answer questions that I would ask to my partner instead of me. For many people in debate, they only care about winning. And while that is always an important goal, basic respect must come before that. And while it is entirely the student's fault for not having basic human decency, it is also the coaches' and judges' responsibility for continuing to allow these students to participate just because they're winning rounds. We as a society need to figure out how to better communicate without always letting the loud people win. There are many concrete actions that we can take in order to solve the bias of the loud. In terms of politics, states have already started to make change when it comes to voting. A new system called ranked choice voting is starting to be implemented, where voters rank candidates in terms of preference, voting their first as number one and the rest however they want. NBC News reporter Edelman explains that this benefits moderate candidates who don't appeal to either party's fringe and instead work to appeal to the broadest number of people. This is exactly how we can come to compromises and avoid further polarizing our society. Only a few states have implemented this. However, as of January of this year, 14 states are considering implementing this system, whether it's at the local, state, or federal level. And next, because everyone loves a good acronym, let's solve the bias of the loud with LOUD. L for just be less loud. O for open the discussion. Because quieter people often refrain from immediately talking in anticipation of a louder person joining in with a strong claim. U for you gotta quiet down, bro. And lastly, D for damn, are you done yet? I hope over these past 9 or so minutes, you've reflected on finding your own voice, figuring out how and when you use it, and figuring out what your farm animal aura is. Thank you.